So we have a 1949 at Glen. So this is an amazing opportunity for us to sample and try whiskey that was distilled in the 1940s. There's not a huge amount of whiskey available from that decade because there was limited supply during World War II. There's so many factors. In fact, it was just from so long ago.
This is really something. And this is special for your family as well, isn't it?
Yeah, this talks of relationships, of trust, of friendship. Glen is one of 112 different distilleries Gordon MacPhail have filled New Make Spirit with over the years. But in the same ways, we shouldn't really have a favourite child. Glen was George's favourite distillery. And it would have been a lot to do with the quality of relationships.
And who would have laid this down then?
So my grandfather, George Urquhart, or is known as Mr. George within the business, he'd have laid this down with the help of his father, John Urquhart as well.
I mean, it's an extraordinary foresight, because, the world was blended whiskey, and it was so hard to get single malt whiskey. And I think people forget that, single malt as a category is really only starts late 1990s.
Yeah.
You could pick it up before then, but it wasn't a mass market. But if you had to go and search for single malt, then you would go to Gordon MacPhail because there was nowhere else that really offered that range.
Tell me about the character you feel in this book.
So there's an elegance to Glen, and it's a combination of that lots of copper contact, so it produces quite a lightweight, but with the addition of their purifiers and the purifier pipe, they end up creating this light oiliness, which adds a little bit of heft to it, enough heft to allow it to become silky in the mouth, carry those flavours, bond those flavours together that help it become so enduring.
So, I mean, Glen always fascinates me anyway, because, you taste it when it's young, and it could be really young, and it's very fresh and it's vibrant and it's, lots of green apples and cucumber and basil and all of that going on. And your assumption, therefore, is, well, it's going to hit its peak around about 12 or maybe 18, but it's certainly not ever going to reach this sort of age. But it has a depth to it. That there's a richness to Glen that is often overlooked, especially under the older way of producing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whiskey within Gordon MacPhail that we release as a 10-year-old. It's a whiskey that we also release as a 70-plus-year-old whiskey as well. So it has got that kind of weight to it that we can lay down. Obviously, the spirit's evolved over time, and it'll be interesting to see how long the younger Glen portfolio can mature. But back in the 40s, back in the 1950s, it had a weight to it that has carried on.
Yeah, because it cold fire stills, so that's going to add, that direct fire is going to add weight and power. But they've also got purifiers, which is going to give delicacy. So they kind of work against each other. There was a tiny wee still that they don't use anymore called a wee Geordie, which is like partial triple distillation, but in a different way to Mortlach or Ben Rennes. But that also is adding a kind of oiliness. So there's all these almost, you think, opposing characteristics of it being produced in that one still house, but it's adding up to complexity. And that's what you're getting here.
So if you were an entrepreneurial type who has has an absolute obsession for detail, this is your whiskey.
This is your whiskey.
It's incredible to taste time, isn't it?
I mean, there's so little whiskey from the 1940s left in the world comparatively to the number of people in the world. It's almost like sailing around the world, or it's almost like climbing Mount Everest, getting to try whiskies from that time, because it's just so hard to find, and the rarity of that is just, well, it's down to the time.